Republican leaders, House Speaker John Boehner and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell met with Vice President Joe Biden today to hash out an agreement on this year's budget. But with the GOP demanding $100 billion in cuts and so far getting only $4 billion, does Speaker Boehner have the guts to follow through with the Republican pledge to slash spending? Joining me now to discuss, Fox Business senior correspondent and my colleague and buddy Charlie Casparino, the Agenda Project founder Erica Payne, and the author of The Dollar Meltdown, radio host Charles Goyette. Erica, as a non-member of the Republican Party, as a person who looks at this from the other side of the aisle, do you think that the Tea Party freshmen and other Tea Parties in the House will influence John Boehner and Eric Cantor, or do you think they're going over there as the big government Republicans that they were when George Bush lived in the White House?
I think there's no doubt the Tea Party is going to affect him. They've already affected him. They went against John Boehner when he wanted to keep open a plant in his district that Robert Gates said he didn't need to create some fighter engines. So, you know, they went against him there and they'll go against him again.
Isn't the kind of stuff that Erica is talking about window dressing when Rand Paul is saying you got to cut $500 billion, $500 billion a year for 3 or 4 years before you're into a sane equilibrium?
And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think Rand Paul would have settled for a $100 billion cut this year, correct?
Yes.
That's what he was talking about.
Now he's at $500 billion. His father is saying 3 times that.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean, this is really weak tea on the part of Boehner. I mean, I don't know how he holds a sort of raucous, this whole coalition together if he's only going to settle for peanuts, right?
Charlie, we just had on a segment ago the head of the National Tea Party organization, Judson Phillips, one of many, but his is an umbrella group, suggesting that the Tea Party folks in Ohio should challenge Congressman Boehner in his district. He's only been the Speaker of the House for 2 months. Question: are the small government, fiscally conservative, libertarian Republicans tired of his leadership already?
Look, the small government, fiscally responsible people always get all the verbiage during the election, and then the big government people get all of the action during governance. But I'll tell you, these people in Washington, Republicans and Democrats alike, are playing a game of chicken now. They either do not understand the seriousness of this catastrophe that's looming in front of us, or if they don't understand it, they're paralyzed with fear and afraid to deal with it. In any case, they're either, if they're fearful, they're cowards. If they don't understand it, they're foolish.
Charlie,
but
one of the lessons,
we're in big trouble.
One of the lessons of your wonderful book, The Dollar Meltdown, is you can't solve a problem caused by too much borrowing and spending with more borrowing and spending. It sounds pretty basic. It's economics 101. But do you think Republicans in the House have the intestinal fortitude to say to the president, no, we're not going to raise the debt ceiling. You can't borrow another nickel. I'm waiting for Gasparino to explode on this. You're just going to have to make do on the measly $200 billion a month you collect in taxes and fees.
Listen, they are tinkering around at the margins. I saw Boehner talking on Fox the other day about administrative reorganization and waste and fraud and abuse. They don't understand what Ron Paul has said on your program. They're tinkering around at the margins, and we really need a new understanding, a new philosophy of government, because this one is ending. This is ending badly.
We also need, obviously, a growth agenda. I mean, we're sitting here talking doom and gloom all the time. And yes, they should put a cap on Obama's spending plans. Right. But the Republicans, and I hope they understand this, need a growth agenda. When it really comes down to it, people want to go back to work. People need lower taxes. This isn't all about just cutting and, you know, we have to do with less. Our economic system is about producing more. If we take off the shackles. Remember, if you're a libertarian, you're about growing this economy.
But wouldn't there be more growth if there's more money in the private sector and less in the government?
Of course. And I mean, listen, the notion that, but you know, here's the problem with the argument we're having. It's centering around cutting. I don't hear, especially out of libertarians, where is the growth agenda? Where have any of you guys said, where's Ron Paul? Where's Ron? Forget about Wall Street. Why isn't Ron Paul laid out a plan to grow the economy?
His plan to grow the economy is for the government to spend less, tax less, and stop borrowing.
Okay, but let's see the plan.
Judge,
Go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead, Charlie.
I have written an entire piece about this, as have many other people, about a cost-free, reduction in the burden on the productive people in America by just beginning to eliminate regulations throughout the economy. You can get an amazing burst of growth in this economy.
I got to get to Erica. What do Democrats think when they see this kind of a divide between a mainstream sound defender like Gasparino of the free market and a serious defender of sound money and constitutional principles like Charlie Goyette? What do the Democrats think? Do they like this divide?
Well, I want to be really clear about this free market rhetoric. Okay, I co-authored a booklet called Make Markets Be Markets, which is about financial regulation and how some of the need of the regulation is to bring those free market principles to bear on the financial market. So things like competition, free flow of information, the freedom to fail. And we have not had that to date, which cost us $13 trillion in GDP, a $750 billion bailout.
And that kind of Uber regulation?
First of all, Dodd-Frank is not Uber regulation.
It's absurd.
Second of all,
the most absurd.
It absolutely is not absurd.
It's one of the dumbest pieces of legislation. It does nothing to address the major problem that caused the financial crisis.
I agree with you, but calling it Uber regulation is factually incorrect. There's not a single piece of legislation that has been passed on Wall Street that would have prevented the last crisis.
I want to finesse this a little bit. Hang on, I want to finesse this a little bit. Hang on, time out, because here's one of the things it does regulate. It has empowered the Securities and Exchange Commission to propose regulations, one of which is to allow the Securities and Exchange Commission to determine how much of a bonus is paid by publicly traded but privately owned, we're not talking about General Motors or Chrysler corporations, to their senior executives. Question: what business is it of the government, the Securities and Exchange Commission, to decide whether Jamie Dimon's bonus is too much or not?
I'm going to give you two answers. One you're going to
pick Jamie because you know him,
and I like him. One you're going to hate, and one you're going to like.
Let's hear it.
The one you're going to hate is this: if you're Wall Street and you're a wholly owned subsidiary of the government, if they bailed you out, if they're bailing you out right now with 0% interest rates, easy money. My view is that's what you get when you're awarding the government.
Suppose you're a company that wasn't bailed out.
Well, then that's something totally different. But most of those big banks this covers were bailed out. But the second thing is, Judge, the other thing is...
Before I explode.
This is immaterial. It will not... What they say, this is going to stop, create incentives to stop the next fight.
Charlie,
it will not.
We are talking about human freedom. We are talking about the ability of people to put their money together and hire somebody to invest the money and decide what to pay that person. What right does the government have to interfere into that voluntary arrangement?
Look, I'm not a shareholder of Goldman Sachs or Citigroup. Maybe I should be, but I'm not, and so it is not my business what they do with their profits. On the other hand, it's not their business to reach into my wallet and profitize their corporate activities.
When you bail them out every 5 years, which is what happened, every time they blow up, we bail them out.
But the problem is bailing them out, Charlie.
I agree with that, and that's the problem.
We can't get an honest audit of the Federal Reserve, which does impact me and what I pay for gasoline and groceries. We can't get them audited, but all of a sudden my business is the bonus that Goldman Sachs pays.
It is.
Erica, do you trust bureaucrats to tell Wall Street or even Main Street what to pay their executives?
Let me agree with you. It is immaterial. But I would disagree with who owns whom in your early presentation.
I would argue the government?
100%. The $600 million.
So the Federal Reserve doesn't. The Federal Reserve doesn't give Citigroup
that they spent on lobbyists in
an 18-month
period.
How about $600 billion that they make because the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates at zero and bails them out? How about the $300 billion that they bailed out Citigroup?
One last question, Erica. These are the people that look the other way. By the way, we're going to let them decide what executives should be paid.
Here's why we own them, and Lou Rockwell and Mr. Goyette's going to agree with this. Because we use them to control the money supply.
Got it. Charlie Goyette, Erica Payne, Charlie Gasparino, thanks for joining us. Back with the plain truth on how the nanny state, Gasparino will love this, uses fear to enslave us all.